We'll go ahead and give a 30-minute warning to starting our study session. Realize we're starting a few minutes late. 30 second. Did I say 30 minute? I have a cold. My head's a little fuzzy. 30-second warning, not a 30-minute warning. Okay, we'll go ahead and call to order the council study session for June 14th, 2022. We just have one item on our agenda, the discussion on creation of a risk management self-insured trust program and a self-insured trust through ordinance and creation of a declaration of trust. And who do I have that's going to present this? Oh, no, you're fine right there. It's just study session, Chris. Thank you.
Great. Hi, Mayor and Council. We're going to talk about what you just talked about, the creation of a risk management self-insured trust, a couple of ordinances and an agreement we plan on bringing to council on the 28th. If council kind of gives the go ahead, or we can make changes if needed based on comments today. Can we go to the second slide? So just real briefly, the town has a risk management program. As the town attorney, I'm also the risk manager. With me today is also Rita Murphy, who's the assistant risk manager, and she handles most of the day-to-day of the risk management duties for the town. Just kind of briefly what risk management is we handle all the claims by and against the town. We deal with loss exposures. We deal with, recommending loss control solutions. We try to identify patterns of risk. If we have, certain departments incurring a lot of losses, we'll bring that to that attention and work with that department to hopefully identify things they can do to mitigate those losses. And we also manage the insurance program that we bring to council every June for our renewal of our insurance policies every year. The reason why we're bringing this to council now is due to the volatile insurance market. Over the last few years, it's been a hard market. It's been hard to procure insurance coverages. Deductibles have gone up, premiums have gone up, coverages have gone down. And so Gilbert traditionally had a $50,000 SIR, self-insured retention amount, basically our deductible, which is, for cities, extremely low, at least at cities in Arizona. If you look at our sister cities, Mesa, Chandler, Glendale, Scottsdale, Phoenix, they're at multiple $1 million for their SIR. But traditionally we did $50,000, which means we're on the hook for the first 50 of any claim, and then insurance kicks in beyond that. So this past year, we could not get coverage at our $50,000. We couldn't get bids on that, so it got increased to $250,000. That's what we're at now, and we'll stay that way. Once you can't unring the bell, so once you lose the 50, you're not going back down to 50. No insurance company is going to quote you that. We're at 250 right now. We anticipate in the future that as we do renewals every year, that amount is going to continue to climb as insurance companies deal with losses and look at exposures and all the different lines of insurance that cities have to procure. So because of that, because we have a $250,000 deductible on every claim, we're on the hook for a lot more of these types of losses. If a typical loss could have been, would have been $80,000, well, we're going to have to front all that now because we have a $250,000 deductible per claim. So because of that, we're recommending the creation of a risk management trust. And the whole idea is the funds that are used to pay claims, to pay insurance premiums and all that would be placed in a separate account, in a trust account. And the payment of all these claims would be made from that account rather than from just the general fund as the way it's currently operating. So the benefit of that is we get extra oversight. The idea is we would create through ordinance that the town standing self-insured trust board would oversee the trust fund, so they would get reporting and they would have an opportunity to look at least on an annual basis, if not more often if they want, to see what's going on with the risk management functions of the town, to make recommendations. The other benefit is we would be, and we did that this year, is engage an actuary to look at our claim history and then project out what the amount of money that the town will need in the next fiscal year to be able to cover, anticipated losses based on the past. And the other thing is that the trust itself and this trust fund would be subject to its own separate audit. Right now, the town is audited on an annual basis, and all the risk management claims that are paid are just part of the general audit. This would be a very specific audit looking at risk management functions and looking at everything that's going on with this risk management fund. So there's a couple additional layers of oversight of the risk management functions, which I think really benefits the town generally. And the authority to do that is set forth in statute. So there's 3 parts, and I'll go through it briefly if you can go to the next slide. What we're proposing are 3 parts, 2 ordinances and the actual declaration of trust agreement. So the first ordinance is this risk management program. What it does is it codifies in our code that the town attorney is the risk manager. It's the way it is right now and has been for, I think, 4.5 years. But our code talks about, in some places, town attorney, other places talks about risk manager, so it just codifies it. Hey, that's the way it is. Council at a future date could always change that if they want to do something different with the risk management program. It codifies the program, an actual program in the town code. Right now, we operate a risk management program, but it's not codified. We just do the functions of risk management. This would clarify what our obligations are and our roles and duties are with regards to risk management in the town. It establishes the duties of the risk manager, the settlement authority. So in code section 2-61, the town manager has settlement authority. So we could settle claims up to $25,000. Anything above that, we come to council for approval. That stays the same, the settlement authority. We're not recommending any changes, and creation of this program wouldn't impact that at all. It establishes the trust fund. It codifies, and the one thing, it codifies the requirement that we get town council approval prior to filing a suit. That's the way we operate now. If the town wants to bring a claim or counterclaim or file an appeal in a lawsuit, we come to council, we get council at a public meeting, we get council's approval to do so. That's the way our practice has been. This would codify that and require that to happen to make sure that happens every time. And that's just claims filed by the town, lawsuits filed against the town. We just would handle that the way it goes. And then the last thing is establishing the lost fund. So any questions on that ordinance? Okay, let's go to the next one, please. So this would be the second ordinance, and it's creating a new article under the existing self-insurance chapter in our town code. So we have chapter 3 is self-insurance, and right now under that we've got the Self-Insured Health Trust Board operates under that. They've got their own chapter, or they've got their own article. We've got the Workers' Comp Trust Board as well. And so that trust fund and the health and the workers' comp, they're separate funds. This would create another fund under that same chapter to deal with risk management. And the idea here is that, the fund would be codified, so the creation of the fund would be codified. It would allow that the trust is overseen by the Self-Insured Trust Board. It's managed by the Risk Management Department, but overseen by the Trust Board. And it establishes the fund, and that fund will be segregated from the other self-insured trust funds, from the town's general fund. It would be its own separate fund, get funded by the town on an annual basis through the budget process, and then everything would be paid out of that fund going forward, rather than the way it happens now is if we incur a loss, say the Parks Department incurs a loss, then we pay that and the Parks Department gets charged, and if they don't have budget, they go to contingency. It would now be paid out of that, but internally the process stays the same. It would hit, in that case, the Parks Department budget, but the money's paid out of the trust fund. So the process is very similar, but the actual pot of money is separate and can only be used for those purposes. And the last thing is any changes to the trust under the ordinance has to get council approval, and including the ability to wind that up, that stays with council. And then the last slide is just the actual trust agreement itself. So the ordinance creates the idea of the trust. It would create a trust fund, but there actually has to be a trust agreement. So this is an agreement between the town And it's declaring the trust, and the board members, the self-insured trust board members will also agree to this. And so this would be the trust agreement that the trust would operate under. It provides a lot more detail than the ordinance. The ordinance is more general, that allows its creation. And this declaration then sets forth all the duties and obligations of the risk manager, of the trust board, of the town with regard to processing claims, payment of claims, the types of monies that can be spent out of this trust fund. It's limited to risk management type functions and nothing else. It also requires the annual audits and reporting requirements to the board. So that's what we're looking at proposing to bring forward. The effective date, if we can, we'd bring it forward on June 28th, and then to be effective, to go forward and start in the new fiscal year, to start operating under this new process for risk management.
Any comments or questions for Chris?
Thanks, Mayor. Chris, I think you'll be sending this actual language out to us earlier than the agenda prep, or?
Yeah, I sent it last week.
Oh, yeah, I did see that. I just didn't read it till after. Okay, sorry, yep. Yeah. Because you know me, I like to actually read the ordinance before I give the approval, but I think you outlined, at least the conversation you and I had about this really well. I serve as a liaison to the trust board, and what I really like about this system is that when we get detailed financial statements for workers' comp, our health insurance, and all of that, and now the risk management, and I think it gives that one more set of eyes to make sure that we're managing this money the way we should be managing it, and it doesn't take away any of the authority of the council to make decisions if we're going to go forward with a lawsuit or how we settle those items. The other thing I think was important for me to understand was that this isn't new money. This is just money that's in the general fund line item that will be switched over into the risk management, if I understood that right.
That's okay. Correct. And if you have more questions, Kelly could speak better to that. But yeah, there's no new allocation, no new funds being spent. It's just, rather than have those funds be part of the department's budgets for this next fiscal year, it's been pulled out and would be its own line item in the separate trust fund.
Thank you. That's all I had.
Another. Councilmember Kaprowski.
I have a question regarding whether the cost to administer this type of trust is equivalent to the insurance premiums, or can you talk a little bit about that risk there?
Yeah, so the cost, it would be administered by staff and then by by the volunteer board. So really the only additional cost the town would incur would be the cost of the audit, because it's a separate audit, and I haven't spoken with finance about this yet, but I would anticipate we'd use the same audit firm on the same schedule, and then we would add that to the scope. So I don't know what the cost would that be, but my guess is a few $1,000s. And then the cost of the actuary every year, which is, again, remember what? $8,000, I think it was. So we're talking maybe $10,000 or $12,000 is what the extra cost to risk management functions would be to create this. Our staff time is obviously built in either way. Other than that, there's no other experts or anything that we would need to hire that we don't already do.
Any other comments or questions? This is a board that's already standing. As Councilmember Tilke mentioned, she's the liaison to this board, so it wouldn't be forming a new board and finding new volunteers for that. It's a board that's already in existence for the town, and just a new obligation for them to look at on behalf of the town.
Correct.
Any other comments or questions? Do we give a head nod to move forward with this? We can't vote on anything since it's a study session, but
okay,
great.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Simple presentation. That's the only item that we have on our study session agenda this evening, so I will go ahead and adjourn our study session, and we'll be back for our regular meeting at 6:30. Thank you.